Greetings, all you princesses, criminals, athletes, and basket cases alike. This is BCF, and I've got a serious conversation to have today. Um, you guys have known me to do recovery streams, and this is kind of one. Um, I want to talk about my recent recovery issues. Y'all probably know that recovery is a work in progress. It always is. And you're never recovered. You're always in recovery. Even if I never use again, I will always be an addict and I will still be in recovery. There's no such thing as being recovered. Addiction is a chronic disease and it's something that we have to live with. Just like my asthma is chronic, and sometimes it's bad and sometimes I don't even know it's there at all. Addiction's kind of the same way. Sometimes it gets bad. Sometimes we don't know it's there at all. And other times, there are times when I have relapses. For me, my triggers are when something bad happens. I relapsed when I lost my mom. I relapsed when I lost my partner of 32 years. And I relapsed recently when I lost my job back in April. I'm not telling you this so ha ha ha, BCF relapse. I'm not telling you this because of that. The reason that I'm telling you is because this time when I relapsed, it was a little different. Like I knew right away that I needed to do something so that my life didn't go down the tubes again. When I got a job around this time last year, it was a really good job, a high paying job. For my area, it was more than twice what minimum wage is. I'll just say that this job pay. So it was good, and it was a work from home job, which was like a dream for me. And I became a licensed insurance agent, and I was selling Medicare Advantage plans, and I was doing decent at it. What I didn't know is that this particular company does a massive hiring every year to prepare for the busiest time of year. And then when that time is over, they do a massive termination. And so I got cut out of nowhere. It was a complete and total rug pull. Didn't see it coming. A bunch of us got cut, not just me. A whole bunch of people got cut at the same time. But for me, it was a complete rug pull because I'd only been back to work for 6 months. When I was with my partner, he supported me. And I had enough money that I didn't have to work for about a year and a half. And then, I got to where I desperately needed a job. So I had to go to work. And so losing this job wasn't just like losing a job because I was on my own and I have no second income coming in, nobody to support me, nobody I could go to for money or help. I had to find a job right away. And it wasn't easy to replace the job. And so I fell off my rails. And I have never throughout my history of recovery and my long history with addiction, have never done a formal inpatient program. And I decided this time that I was going to do that. Oh my gosh, I know I just came on. I'm going to have to ask you guys to give me a minute. I'm sorry. Give me just 1 minute. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to take a quick restroom break. But anyway, I decided that I was going to do a medical detox because I was concerned. I knew I was going to be very sick when uh, I came to my senses, and I didn't want to worry about. I was worried about dehydration, and um, I already was a couple of days into my detox, and I was feeling kind of like I couldn't breathe, like I just didn't feel right. So I decided that the responsible and smart thing to do was to do a formal inpatient medical detox. I thought, hey, if something goes wrong, they'll catch it. Like they'll hook me up to some IV bags so I won't get dehydrated, and, they can give me medicine or whatever. I'll be all right. What they don't tell you about detox is that it's not, you don't get medical grade care there. Okay. It's not like being in a hospital. The place, really, what medical detox is a storage unit for addicts. It's a place where they stick you to keep you out of trouble, basically. And really, that's all there is to it. The crisis center that I was in didn't have um, I almost said the facilities, but that's not the right word. They didn't have the provisions, I guess, is the right word, to hook me up to an IV to make sure that I was medically okay. They had stethoscopes and they had blood pressure monitors, and that was about it. And, they gave me, for withdrawal symptoms, they gave me blood pressure medicine, which I don't have high blood pressure. It's actually a little bit on the low side. So while I was there, instead of feeling better, is usually when you're detoxing, when you're getting the drugs out of your system, you have about a day. Well, at least for me, I have about a day where I don't feel all that bad. And then I start sweating and just kind of feeling shaky. And then after about a day, I start throwing up. And then that lasts for about a day, maybe a little less than a day. And then after about 3 days, I'm usually over the worst of it. I was in there for a week, and I was already a couple of days into detox when I went in. And I didn't start feeling better. I felt so bad. I had this terrible pain in my stomach. But even worse than that, I felt so unsteady. I felt like getting up and walking across the room was too hard. I felt like I was going to fall over, like I could barely walk. And every day we would see, not a doctor, they didn't have anything that fancy. They had a nurse practitioner that we saw every day. And I kept telling them that I felt like something was wrong with me, that I still felt nauseated. I was having stomach pain, that I just felt like I was going to fall over. I felt like my heart was beating, like out of my chest, just from walking across the room. Um, I was still having cold chills, followed by the sweats, and followed by the cold chills again. And basically, I was still feeling like I was in my first day of detox, but even worse than that, because I had this unsteadiness. And that's not normal. The feeling like you can't walk across a room without falling over, feeling like your heart's going to explode out of your chest. That's not a normal part of detox. And they kept saying, well, you must have a bug because you're 5 days in, you're over the sick part now. So you've got a stomach bug. And I kept telling them, no, I know what a stomach bug feels like. This isn't a stomach bug. There's something wrong with me. And they just would not pay attention to me at all. So I ended up discharging myself. And when I got home, of course, the next day, well, actually, when I got home, my roommate at the time, like when she saw me, she gave me a hug and she said, "Oh my God, where did those bruises on your arms come from?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she pulled up my sleeve, and I had on both of my arms what looked like multiple finger marks, like when somebody grabs you really hard and the fingertips leave little bruises. I had them all over my arms. And when I went in to change my clothes, I had a huge bruise on my breast as well. And I had no idea where any of these bruises came from. And then the next morning, I got up and went to pee, and it looked like the toilet was full of blood when I got up. And so I thought, hey, I must have a really bad UTI, because I'd once had passed a little blood, not like this, but I'd once passed a little bit of blood when I had a UTI. And so that's what I thought. So I don't have a vehicle. I wrecked my vehicle in December, and, hadn't had the money to replace it. So I got on the bus and I went to urgent care. And I could barely get on the bus. I had to grab onto the rail and pull myself up like that. And I almost fell trying to get on the bus. Like, it was bad. And I got off at the urgent care place and walked across the parking lot. And I got to the sidewalk. And I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to lift my foot up to step up onto the sidewalk, which is, like maybe an inch or two high. And I had to get down on my hands and knees and crawl into the facility. And, they basically took a look at me and called an ambulance. And when I got checked out, they told me that they were checking me into the hospital, that I was going to be admitted, and I was going to be there for a while. And it turned out that I had something called rhabdomyolysis. Now, I put some pictures up that showed a little bit about rhabdomyolysis. Here we go. So rhabdomyolysis is a somewhat rare but life-threatening medical disorder. It's very common with athletes, people who do like extreme athletics, like CrossFit. Dancers, I think, it's a risk for them. It's one of the risks of heat stroke. And it's also a risk for people who are going through detox from illicit drugs. It's a significant risk. And it's caused by dehydration. And generally, what it's caused by, hang on a second. What it's caused by is your muscle fibers and cells committing suicide. They basically explode on themselves. And here we go. And leak a bunch of stuff into your bloodstream. I know you can't really read this too well, so I'm sorry about that. But it can cause extensive muscle damage. But even more important is that the stuff that is left behind when the muscles explode and commit suicide into your bloodstream is that they leave all this stuff behind that your body can't filter out on its own. That is why the bloody looking urine happens, is because of something called myoglobinuria, which I believe is just a fancy word for bloody urine. But it leaves behind a lot of stuff that your kidneys can't filter out on their own. I'm sorry, I'm looking for the list here. Hold up. Here we go. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because one of the things they always tell you in recovery is that it'll make you feel like you're dying. It might make you feel like you want to die, but it can't kill you. And that's just not true. Um, it can kill you if you don't know what to look for and you don't advocate for yourself like I did. If I had listened to those people who were telling me that I had a stomach bug and kept blowing me off, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be dead, because rhabdomyolysis leads to renal failure and eventually death if left untreated. Here we go. All right. So the toxic components of your muscle fibers enter your circulation system and kidneys, which causes kidney damage. It's relatively uncommon. Every year, about 26,000 people in the United States develop this condition. So really, I mean, it's not a lot, and you may think that that's a reason not to worry about it, but it happened to me. And some of the signs are like the normal signs of detox, like nausea, for instance, and weakness, muscle weakness, and things of that nature. But loss of consciousness is also one. And I lost 2 days while I was in detox. I remember asking what day it was. I thought it was Thursday, and they told me it was Saturday. And I was like, oh my God, where did the 2 days go? Like, I really lost 2 days. And they kind of laughed at me. And I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I don't know. I just lost 2 days. Like, have I been sleeping for 2 days or what? And like, they didn't even answer me. I mean, you would think that a doctor would take that seriously, but they didn't. So we already know that detox, that it's is a risk of rhabdomyolysis, that high intensity exercise also causes the risk. Severe dehydration and overheating, I mentioned heat stroke, can also cause it. Some medicines can cause it as well. And substance use disorder or addiction can cause it. Non-prescribed substances like psychoactive drugs can also cause it as well, and long periods of inactivity. Well, I had long periods of inactivity. I mean, I was working from home at a desk job, and then when I lost my job, I was sitting around, kind of doing nothing. And then I was in detox, so I had several conditions that set me up for it. What gets leaked into your bloodstream is stuff that is in there anyway, but large amounts of it can shut your kidneys down. Like, your kidneys can't filter it out. Large amounts of potassium, phosphate, myoglobin, creatine, and urate. And your kidneys remove all this stuff from your blood, so you pee them out. That's what you pee out. But in large enough quantities, your kidneys get damaged, and then kidney failure occurs, which can cause death if left untreated once again. And this is something that I had never even heard of before until I actually had it. Now, for me, my condition led to a severe kidney infection. So I actually developed sepsis because of it. So they were treating that as well. And I have a kidney stone that I still have, because for some reason they didn't think that breaking it up so I could get rid of it faster was a good idea. I don't know why. They think it's better that I pass the thing on my own, especially when there's good reason to believe that I've had this kidney stone for years and years, but I digress. At least the doctors know about it now, right? But I spent nearly a week in the hospital. And I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but in the hospitals in my area, as soon as you're in there, they're working on getting you out. You know, they don't want you in there any longer than you have to be in there, especially if you're on Medicaid, which I am. And so the fact that I was in there for that long is a sign of how serious it was. But what makes it scary to me is the fact that I was literally an invalid for several days. I could not get up and walk across a room. It was so painful, even getting up and just, you know, and in my room, like the toilet was just like maybe 3 steps away from my bed. And getting up and walking over to the toilet and especially sitting down on it was so painful. Like I actually could not do it without not screaming, but like kind of yelling, like it was that painful. And I remember at one point, because I could eat or drink whatever I wanted, and I was thirsty. Oh my God. Like I was so thirsty. And for some reason I wanted orange juice all the time when I was in there. And, you know, they have those little things of juice that they'll bring you. And they were bringing them to me because I was going through it so fast. They were bringing me 6 of those little juice things at a time, like every couple hours. I mean, I was drinking that much. And I was getting bags and bags and bags of fluid too. So, I mean, that should give you an idea of how dehydrated I was. But I actually got lucky. Well, hold on. I wanted to go. I remember I wanted to go to the vending machines because I wanted something, you know, outside of the regular meal times and stuff. And I was hungry. And I couldn't even walk down the hall to the vending machines. Like the pain and the weakness was so bad that I couldn't even do that. Like that's how fast your muscles break down. And like even still, my legs and arms are still kind of like flabby-ish. And I've always, like, even when I've been severely inactive, my calves and stuff have always been like muscular and kind of tight. You know, I'm not saying I'm like Miss Hardbody or anything, but there are certain parts of my body that have never been flabby, and parts of my body that have always been tight are still kind of spongy and weak and weird now. And I'm still waiting for my body to go back to the way it used to be. And who knows, like, I mean, it may never be the same. And like I said, I'm lucky because I caught it when I did. Most people who get this have to go through dialysis, which is a long and painful process, I'm told. And I got lucky I didn't have to do that. And I've had follow-up checkups and, you know, had my blood tested to make sure that I haven't had a recurrence of the rhabdomyolysis. And I'm very paranoid now about getting my fluids and stuff, because once you've had rhabdo, there's the danger that it could reoccur. You're more likely to get it again. And I think, you know, they say it's rare. Only 26,000 people a year in the United States get it. But I was riding home on the bus from work the other day. Yes, I do have another job. I work for a nonprofit and I raise money for charity now. That's what I do full time and I get paid to do it. So it's nice. I feel like I'm putting a little bit of good back into the world and I'm getting paid to do it. Even though I'm not getting paid a great amount of money, I'm still making above minimum wage anyway. And I'm doing something I feel like I can be proud of. So that's a good thing. Anyway, I was about to say I was on the bus. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, but I was riding home from work on the bus, and this lady was on there, and she just started talking. She was asking for directions to the hospital, and I was telling her how to get there on the bus. And she ended up telling me that her daughter was in the hospital. And I thought she was at first telling me that she was there as the result of an overdose. But it turned out that her daughter was suffering from the same thing that I had, rhabdomyolysis. And the lady ended up saying to me that she felt like God had put us both on that same bus for a reason, because I ended up talking to her for a long time and giving her some information about my experience, and what it was like, and how to help her daughter, because her rhabdo was also the result of drug use, and ways that she could help her, and giving her some resources that are available in our area and some advice and stuff. And her daughter did have to go through dialysis, hemodialysis, which is having your blood manually cleaned. I don't know if that's the same. I don't know what the difference is between kidney dialysis and hemodialysis, but I have seen, I used to work at a pharmacy, and we had a lot of people who were elderly that would come in. And there was this one particular gentleman who had to have dialysis on a regular basis. And I saw what his arms looked like, poor guy. And it's not a fun experience. It's painful for them. And my experience was not fun, but it could have been so much worse. And I'm so grateful. Like, apparently my kidneys are still healthy. They're still functioning. And I'm still on this side of the ground, and I could very well be underneath it. I used to think that being dehydrated was just, not that big of a deal, kind of. I used to feel like as long as I was taking in some fluid, that I was all right, that I couldn't get dehydrated enough to get sick. But I was taking in plenty of fluid when I got sick with rhabdomyolysis. I mean, while I was in detox, like, I drank every bit of their orange juice. I drank like three or four huge pitchers of it in like a 3-day period. I mean, I was drinking massive amounts of juice. And but I guess the thing is once you get to a certain point of dehydration, you can't get over it on your own. So you have to be aware of it. And oh, wow. Yes, I'm very worried about kidney failure. Like, it was one of my biggest concerns, Becky, because I know that uh, it's not a fun condition. I know it's painful and can be debilitating. And I feel so very grateful that I caught it when I did. Um, it just amazes me that nobody, as long as I've been involved with recovery, that I have never heard or been told that this is something that we need to worry about. And I believe we need to have more conversations about the health risks of not just illicit drug use, but also the process of recovery and what the warning signs are for serious medical issues. Yes, it was a huge wake-up call, not just for the fact that I need to get and stay clean, because who knows, the next time could kill me. But that if I had known that this was a risk, that I would have known to look out for it. And peritoneal puts. Oh wow. Yes. You're right, Becky. Working out can cause it. Extreme athletics. So people who dance are at risk, but people who do extreme athletics like CrossFit, endurance training, high Wyoming, yes, injuries, um, things like that. Extreme heat, like heat stroke, can cause it, and extreme dehydration. And uh, if you weren't, for those who weren't here when I was talking about it earlier, basically it's your muscle cells just start committing suicide and they explode, and the stuff that they leave behind goes out into your bloodstream. And it's stuff like creatine, phosphate, potassium, urate, and myoglobin. And that's what your kidneys generally remove from your bloodstream. But when they explode the way they do from extreme dehydration, your kidneys can't filter it out. And so you get toxic, and uh, that's when it leads to renal failure. So here's a list of just like if you are exposed to these conditions, you need to be aware that you're more at risk. Like I said, an endurance athletes, the marathon runners, people who do spin classes, high intensity interval exercises, dancers, things like that. Working in hot environments. So like if you're a firefighter or a foundry worker or work in a hot environment, like where you can get overheated. People in the military, like if you're in boot camp or undergoing intense training, and folks above 65 years of age. And of course, if you are in detox or if you are currently using certain drugs, not just illicit drugs either, there's certain other drugs. Now, here is some of the things that Rhabdo can cause. Rhabdo is the short word for rhabdomyolysis, by the way. Now, we already mentioned kidney failure. And but there are other things too. There's something called compartment syndrome, which is where your muscles kind of, well, let's say your feet, for instance, will start swelling. Compartment syndrome is pressure around your muscles. So like swelling feet is one of the big signs. And it's a medical emergency. And if it happens to you, basically, like, you have to have emergency surgery to, because the flow of blood, fresh oxygen, and nutrients to your muscles and nerves gets restricted. It hurts a lot. And what happens is that the membrane around the so-called compartment has to be like opened up surgically in order to like let the pressure out. And I think that's one of the things that you like, the second biggest thing you need to worry about besides kidney damage, kidney failure, is compartment syndrome. Now, oh, really? Yeah. With me, like, they were worried that I had it because I had really swollen feet, And it turned out that the reason my feet were swelling, which this has happened to me before, like if I fall asleep sitting up and I don't have my feet up, then my feet will swell. It started like after I got into my late 40s, around that time. Like I already know this about me. And when I was in the hospital, there was something wrong with my TV and I couldn't change the channel. So I just spent most of the time on my phone for most of the time. I went until like the last 2 days I was there. And so I'd be up at night, late at night, and the outlet to my phone, like my charger cord wasn't long enough so I could like sit on my bed with my feet up and be on my phone. So I would sit on the edge of my bed. And a few times, like almost every night that I was there, I fell asleep sitting up like that. And so my feet got all swollen and nasty because I was sleeping like that. But when they saw it at first, they thought I had compartment syndrome. And it was really concerning. But it turned out that it was just because I slept like that a lot. Dependent edema, I didn't know that. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, it can happen. Like a lot of things can cause your feet, ankles, and legs to swell, like heart problems and things like that. But for me, it's just like something that happens if I fall asleep and I don't like, I have back problems too, so I don't lay down comfortably. So I usually fall asleep like in a at least semi sitting up position because it's more comfortable for my back. And so what I because I like to sleep in front of the TV and I don't have one in my bedroom, I've gotten used to sleeping on the couch. And so there was a period there of a long time where I was sleeping sitting up and my feet got so swollen they didn't even look like feet anymore. It was so bad until I realized, and actually I think it was the doctor that told me because I was convinced that I was having heart failure or something. And the doctor told me that sleeping like that was what was causing it. Meds, yes, actually. They gave me something it's called Flomax. And I'm not taking it now, but I took it for a couple of months afterwards, and it's just to improve kidney function. And it was supposed to help me to pass the kidney stone. But unfortunately, I still have the kidney stone. It's hanging out, and for some reason, they don't see the need to intervene with that. And I'm kind of pissed about that. But yeah, I don't take a diuretic or anything. And I would not feel comfortable, I don't think, taking one after um, dealing with dehydration. Like, I'm terrified of dehydration now, of course. And yes, dependent, that's exactly what I had, is dependent edema. That sounds exactly it. But yeah, they gave me Flomax to try and help me pass the stone. And I took it for 2 months. The stone's still there. And they said it was like 6 millimeters, which to me sounds really big, but according to them, it's not. So I don't know, but I have reason to believe that I've had this kidney stone for a good at least 5 years, maybe even closer to 10. And I told them that I was pretty sure I'd had it for years and years. And I passed the kidney stone about 10 years ago. And oh my God, it was horrible. And I think this one probably developed shortly after I passed the first one. And I think it's been hanging out ever since. Uh, and let's see, I missed something in here about alcohol. I'm sorry. I try to keep up with the chat, but I'm not very good sometimes about it. People I know you were talking about, oh, your brother's a landscaper in upper 50s. Becky, for me, I think it was the dehydration that came with detox for me that caused it. Yes. Um, and that is one of the reasons why I wanted to go public about it, is because they always say whenever they're doing counseling or talking about recovery is that, you may feel like you want to die, you may wish you were dead, but it can't kill you. And I found out that that's absolutely not true. I mean, detox almost did kill me. And I think if I knew more, I might have advocated for myself a little sooner than I did. Um, but if I hadn't advocated for myself, or if I'd listened to what the nurse practitioner at the detox place was telling me that I had a bug, then I wouldn't still be on the right side of the ground. I'd be under it. Um, I've heard that too about kidney stones coming from extra junk in our water. And I've also heard that it was related to drinking a lot of pop. And I used to drink Coca-Cola like it used to be all I drank was Coca-Cola. And in the past, like maybe 2 years, I've gotten to where I want to drink juice all the time. And I'm just so thirsty all the time. And I figure that's probably like it was my soda drinking that's probably caused my kidney stones, because I never did drink water. I'm sorry to hear that, Wyoming. It's so hard when you have somebody who needs help and they just won't get it. And there's nothing you can do until they're ready. But I always said that the only thing that I wish, that the people I love had done differently is that the people who knew that I had a problem, I wish that just one of them would have confronted me with it, because I was so afraid of admitting that I needed help. I was so afraid that the people who loved me would look at me differently or not like me anymore. And I kept it secret for so long. And then when I finally admitted it to people I cared about, they were like, well, I'm so glad you're finally talking about it, because we've known for years. And if just one person had said, look, Amber, I know you've got a problem and I'm going to love you no matter what, but we'll get through this together, but you need help, I would have immediately gone into treatment. Now, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault but my own. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm not blaming it on anybody. My problem happened because I let myself get out of control. But if you have somebody you love who needs help, and I can't say this enough, just make sure that they know, and don't ever stop telling them that you love them, and you'll love them. You'll keep loving them, but they need to get help. Even if they're resistant, just make sure that they know that. And that's really all that you can do until they're ready to get help. Yeah, maybe. Maybe they were afraid to say something. I think that might have been part of it. And like, maybe they figured I'd just deny it. And so they didn't want to fight with me, maybe. They were afraid it'd start a fight. But, I understand. And I understand why a lot of people don't go get help, even if they know they have the support. And that's because if his problem's alcohol, I think that's what you said, right? Like, alcohol is even harder than opiates to detox from. I mean, it's just, you get so terribly ill, and most people put off getting the help just because they're afraid of the sickness. And it turns into a self-perpetuating cycle, or at least it did with me. Like, you get dope, you be good for a while, and then you run out of money or whatever for a while. You'd suffer for a day or two till payday came or whatever, and you could get more dope and you'd be sick for a day, but you'd just be sick for a day. And then you could go get more, and then things would be okay till you ran out again. And, it was just like a never ending cycle. And now that I've gone through it, and I'm out the other side. God, I don't ever want to go through that again. And who knows, like if I did go through it again, it might kill me the next time. Like seriously. I mean, I'm lucky that I made it through this bout of rhabdomyolysis. I'm so lucky that I made it through with very little to zero permanent damage. Like, but I always said, I feel like God kind of like talks at us, or talks to us, and he has his own ways, you know. He kind of quietly taps you on the shoulder. It's like, you think you might want to reconsider what you're doing? And then like you don't respond, so maybe he taps a little harder. It's like, hey, I said, and finally he just smacks you upside the head and says, look, dumbass. And I think that the bout with the rhabdo, my stay in the hospital, might have been my look dumbass moment. And I'm lucky it wasn't worse. And luckily I haven't caused I haven't hurt anybody but myself. I haven't caused anybody else's to, I wouldn't say pain, because I'm sure it hurt. I know it hurt the people who love me. But as far as like consequences, you know, I had to suffer the consequence of my actions. The people I loved were hurt because they worried about me, you know, and seeing me like lose jobs and things like that. But I didn't cause any, like there weren't any car wrecks, nobody died. Like luckily I got off easy is what I'm trying to say. I'm not making excuses and saying, you know, I'm a good little addict, because no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I've been blessed so far, because the consequences of my actions have been luckily not that bad, but I don't want it to get worse. You know, I definitely don't want to die. And, oh, I'm so sorry, Wyoming. It's so hard to watch people you love suffer. Oh my gosh. So, did you say that was your daughter, Becky? She has to do it 3 times a week. That has to be terrible, but it has to be terrible for her. I'm so sorry. And yeah, for me, like everything that's happened has been fixable so far, but next time maybe not, you know. Next time I might do permanent damage to myself. Um, I could have gotten behind the wheel after using and had a car wreck that caused irreparable damage to myself or somebody else. You know, I could have done something that landed me in jail. I mean, just the possibilities are endless. But until the Rhabdo thing happened, that was the first really serious consequence I ever saw of my drug abuse. I mean, I lost jobs, but I always got another one, you know. So the Rhabdo was the first really serious consequence I ever faced due to my addiction issues. And it woke me up, you know, it did. I always thought, you know, I'm a functioning addict. I'm functional. You know, I can handle myself, whatever. And no, you know, you might be functional, but you're always functional until you're not. And you just don't know when the not is coming and where it's coming from. She was on hemodialysis 3 days a week and now does, oh my goodness, every night. Oh, oh, wow. I'll definitely keep her in my thoughts and prayers. I know it has to hurt. I know it has to hurt. Like I said, luckily I didn't have to go through that. By the grace of God, I caught it. Like I went to the doctor as soon as I saw symptoms that concerned me. And you know, it probably would have been a lot less severe even if I'd been taken to the hospital when I first said something was wrong. But I'm not going to beat that drum too much, because if I do, then I'll just be bitter and I'll go into the part where I start blaming other people when I'm really the one who needs to answer for it. Um, I've had people say, you ought to take them to court and you ought to file a complaint and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, um, oh, they leave your old kidneys in when you have a transplant? Really? Wow, I didn't know that either. Wyoming, you never know what might make a person wise up. Some people can have terrible health scares. Like I know somebody who had oh gosh, I forget what it's called now. It just I know it, and I know it as somebody told me, but it's when your heart gets an infection due to drug use. Um, it's mostly common in people who use drugs intravenously, which I've never done, but it's where your heart gets an infection. And I know somebody who went through that and still continued to uh, shoot up after being treated for it. So sometimes health scares aren't enough. I mean, things are different from everybody, but me, I have a healthy myocarditis. Yes, thank you, Becky. And he continued to use. And he recently got out of jail. He went for drug related offenses. And the funny thing is, people say that people who are addicts, come from a background of drug abuse and stuff. But I was raised by a very, very, well, she was very religious, but she was also very straight. My mom didn't drink. My dad didn't drink, not really. Neither one of them used drugs. And it's funny because they met playing in a band, and, they traveled, they had a few records out and stuff. And you would think that because they did have that lifestyle that, they would have at least drank, but no, they didn't. And my mom didn't drink at all, except for maybe like a little splash of amaretto in her coffee every now and then. Or what's the other stuff they put in their coffee that, oh crap. I don't know where my brain is tonight. Oh, that Bailey's. Bailey's. She likes some Bailey's in her coffee every now and then too. But I'm talking like a splash at Christmas time, and that's about it. As far as I know, my mom never tried any kind of drugs at all. And I suspect my dad might have smoked a little of the ganja from time to time, maybe when he was younger. But, that's just a suspicion. But as far as I know, like they never, ever, ever did any kind of drugs ever. Um, and so I did not come from a background where there was drug use ever. Um, and actually, yes, cotton fever is. I know people who had that happen on some semi-regular basis and would still keep doing it too, and that makes them terribly sick. Yeah. I'm lucky I have a big healthy fear of needles, so I was never ever tempted to use like that. Which, once again, I'm not trying to say I'm a good addict. Like, it's all bad. It's all bad for you, but there's so many other risks that go along with IV drug use. It's so many other health risks, and I mean, there's enough with what I went through anyway. Um, yeah. Wyoming, I know that the tendency towards alcoholism can be like an inherited thing. Now I did have a stepfather that was an alcoholic, but he and my mom were only together for about 5 years. And so the funny thing was I was always like a very moderate drinker. And, I went through a period where I smoked a little weed and stuff, but for the most part, I was very anti-drug. And there are people that I grew up with that if you told them that I was an addict, they would probably call you a liar to your face. Like, I'm the poster child for it could really be anybody, that it could happen to anybody. Because my problems came from legitimate medical prescriptions. Well, it started out being legitimate, and then an unethical doctor contributed happily to my becoming an addict. And no, I wasn't instructed to ignore you, Mr. Jackpot. I don't know you. You just haven't said too much until just now. Oh, I didn't see where you asked how I was doing. Hi, sorry. Like I said, sometimes I tend to miss things in the chat when I get to talking. And so I apologize. Yes, Wyoming, with me, it started with pain pills. I had an issue with my back, and I was getting like 90 5 milligram Lortabs, hydrocodone a month. And to make a long story short, I know I've told this story before, but I'm sure some of you or maybe none of you have heard it. So to make a long story short, I told my doctor multiple times that I felt like I was becoming dependent on them and that I was concerned about that. And my doctor would lower my prescription. But when I came back in, they would raise it without discussing it with me. And it would be more than I had gotten like ever before. For instance, like I was getting 95 milligram a month. That's how it started. I asked her to cut them down. So she cut them down to say 60 a month. Well, of course, by the time I went back in next time, I was kind of hurting a little bit, feeling uncomfortable because I was already getting physically addicted. And so she wrote me a script for 90 again, but they were 7.5 milligrams. And so she kept on doing this. I'd tell her I was developing a problem. She'd cut my dose. And then by the time I came back in next, she would give me more than ever before. And by the end of it, I was getting 180 Percocet 10s every 2 weeks. So I went from 5 hydrocodone, 95 milligram hydrocodone to a month to 360 Percocet 10s. And Percocets are like oxycodone. So they're stronger than hydrocodone a month. And I found out much later that this particular doctor, with the insurance that I had really good insurance. And with the insurance that I had, this doctor got $200 a visit. And if you paid out of pocket, they got $75 a visit. So they were basically exploiting my insurance. This is what I believe. And, that's why they had me coming in every 2 weeks instead of once a month after a while. And they knew that I would keep coming to them because I was becoming an addict. So I ended up, I got to the point where my pain pill addiction got so bad that I lost my job. And I told my doctor, I lost my job, after this month, I'm not going to have insurance anymore. And I don't know what I'm going to do because I know I've got a problem. Told the doctor all this. So my very first appointment after my insurance ran out, my doctor says, "You've been on these pain pills long enough. It's time we took you off of them." Cut me loose as a patient. And she was a general practitioner, not just a pain doctor, but cut me loose as a patient without any reference resources, any referrals, any suggestions about how to get myself cleaned up. Nothing. Just completely cut me loose with a huge monkey on my back and no idea of how to cope with it. And I found out that since then, this doctor has lost their ability to prescribe opioids. So they no longer have the DEA clearance necessary to be able to do that. So that tells you something right there about the kind of person they were. But yeah, so that's how I became a full-blown addict. Yep, that's generally what happens, Wyoming, with people on, and that's what I did too. I mean, even though I was getting such a massive amount, I still got to the point where I would run out. And by the time that I was getting that huge amount of really strong pain pills, I wasn't taking them therapeutically anymore. I was taking them. And it's funny because they refer to it as recreational drug use, but there was nothing recreational about it. That makes it sound like it was fun, like I was partying. And there was nothing fun about it. That's a big misconception. Most people who have a real addiction, especially a physical addiction, don't take pain pills or whatever the drug is because it's fun. They take it because they get horrifically sick without it. And they take it to keep themselves well enough to be able to function. And so it doesn't feel like recreational drug use. It feels like medicine that you really need to be able to feel okay. And that is why it's so hard for most people to get help, because I had people say to me, if you want to get clean, then just stop doing it. Just stop. If it was that easy, then we wouldn't have any need for rehabs. I'll tell you that. Like, if you could just stop, that would be so wonderful. But even without the physical illness that comes along, like, it still will feel like the mental stuff is still left behind. And it feels like every cell in your body is just screaming out for that drug. Like, you never stop wanting it. I mean, now I take Suboxone, and it does help a lot. It helps a lot with the cravings. It makes it so I can sleep at night, all that stuff. And the good thing is that my body seems to be regulating it. Most people have to, like, when they get their doses cut back, they go through like a period of adjustment where they're feeling bad and kind of sick afterwards. But my body kind of tells me when it's time to cut my dose, because I'll start feeling like overly medicated, I guess is the best way. And I just know that when I start feeling like that, then I'm ready to cut my dose down. And when I do, then I'll start feeling okay again. So luckily, that part of it seems to be taking care of itself, which is a good thing, because I've heard stories about what it's like to withdraw from Suboxone, and I've heard it's just as bad, if not worse, as trying to detox from opioids. But I just think it's important that people realize not only that it's important, like, we know it's important to get clean. We know it's important to do the work, to get into recovery, to go through detox. But it's also really important to advocate for yourself, to say, hey, there's something wrong here, and to not shut up about it until somebody pays attention to you. And when you're an addict, even if you don't have a history of pill seeking or medication seeking or doctor shopping or whatever words they want to use to define it by, people just have a tendency not to believe what you're saying if you're known to be an addict. And it's really, really stupid because I had nothing to gain. It wasn't like I thought they were going to give me pain pills because I felt like I was going to pass out by getting up and walking across, like if I got up and walked across the room, like, and going to the hospital is never any fun. If you go to the hospital from a crisis center, they're not going to give you opiates, so it wasn't like there was any kind of conception that I was trying to get like pain pills or trying to even get released early because I was there voluntarily. I could leave anytime I wanted to leave. So I have no idea why they were acting like I was flat out lying, like why they were treating me that way. And it's just, one of those stigma that's attached to having substance abuse disorder. Or just, I hate that term. I don't know why it bugs me. I'm an addict, substance abuse disorder. It's just a way of putting up. I'm an addict. And so the tendency is just not to believe anything that we say. And that's a shame because it could have cost me my life. It really could have. And I just really wanted to put it out there because it's a hidden risk, it's something that they don't tell you about. And it's something they don't talk about. And I really think that when you go into detox, when you go to these crisis centers or you go to the clinics or wherever it is you reach out to for help, that should be part of the literature that they give you is what the possible health risks are and what you need to be aware of and look for signs of. Because as an addict, we're used to ignoring signs of bad health. And because of that, it's more likely, especially when we're already feeling bad, that we might not say something when we're experiencing certain symptoms. But if we knew that these symptoms were a sign of a serious health condition, then we would be more likely to speak up. And I'm hoping that by having this out there, that maybe some conversations will get started and maybe it'll become more of a known thing. This is something that could save lives. So by all means, please share this information, share this video however you want to. I don't worry about clicks and likes. That's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because I think it's important for people to know how dangerous it can be. Do you take them for pain, Wyoming? I've heard it works really well. I've heard methadone works really well for pain for some people. Um, I've heard Suboxone also works well for pain for some people as well. Um, and I think like I've never taken methadone my own self. I think for me, it would be too close to an opioid for me. So Suboxone for me is the better choice because the Suboxone doesn't make me feel high at all. And I know some people who take methadone and I don't know if they're abusing. I mean, supposedly they're like died on me and I had to like go out and back in. Are you all able to hear me all right and everything? Hopefully. Um, yeah, it wasn't muted. It was just StreamYard's just like messed up on me. Um, it doesn't make you high, but you're on a very low dose. Yeah, yeah. I think like for me, like to use it for recovery would just be a bad idea since I have the problems. Yeah, I StreamYards dropped me. I had to go out and come back in. Sorry, guys. Um, so really, I think that's all I wanted to say about that particular thing. Like, and just so you guys know, I know most of you haven't been to a lot of my lives that I host. Like, I usually come up or have a theme or a purpose whenever I come on and do a live, but I always have the policy that anybody who wants to speak is always allowed. So anytime somebody wants a voice, all you have to do is let me know that you want to talk. And everybody is welcome on my panel. You might have to wait until I'm ready to have you up, but I always welcome guests. And I am going to say a little something because I happen to be made aware that after I had my little live earlier today, that Amy and Tiff Tiff were online talking about me, and Space Monster was also talking about me. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because one of the things that was brought up was my recovery and issues and relapse. Oh, thank you, Wyoming. That's sweet. When I relapsed after I lost my mom and I were very close, and losing her, it was very sudden. And just the way it happened was not expected. And it just wasn't a very good scene. It's still kind of hard to talk about because we hadn't heard from her for a while. My brother went to her house to check on her and just found her. And, it's just painful even now. And it's been 3 years. And so, of course, I was devastated when I lost my mom's. We were so close. And I had a bad relapse. And when I relapsed, I was doing a live stream, or I was getting ready to do a live stream. And I usually begin my live streams with music, with a song. And what happened was that while I was playing my song, I fell out. I nodded out. And I was asleep on the live stream for about an hour. People could hear me breathing and snoring and stuff. It's terribly embarrassing to even talk about now. And one of the people that turned out to be a terrible person, but they actually did the right thing in this situation, actually called the police in my area and had them do a wellness check on me. Like, I guess it was that concerning. I deleted that. I think I deleted it anyway. I didn't keep that live around, like I was too embarrassed. I didn't want that reminder. But anyway, afterwards I went live and Space Monster came onto my panel. And she came onto my panel because she was actually at the time trying to kiss ass a little bit. She's trying to make friends with me because she wanted to pump me for information about Amy. And she knew that Amy and I were no longer friendly. She pretty much did to me what she did to Nikki, only what she did to me it was a whole big smear campaign. And she went after my closest friendships on YouTube. And Nikki was my first friendship that she went after. And anyway, Space Monster knew that Amy and I were no longer friends, and she thought that because I was mad at Amy and we were no longer friends, that I would somehow team up with her. Like my hatred of Amy was greater than my hatred of Space Monster. I was like, no, Space, I still hate you too. Like, there's enough hate to go around. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I don't hate anybody, but strong dislike. There's plenty of that to go around. But anyway, because I do have a policy of letting anybody who wants to speak have their fair time on my panel, even if I don't like you, as long as you're respectful, you are going to have your chance to speak. And so I let her come up and we had a discussion. It's still in my list of videos. I believe the title was Dear POS because she called me a piece of shit. And if you're interested, just search my past lives. You'll see it. It's called Dear POS. And anyway, she came up on my panel to try and pump me for information, to talk about Amy and to try and say that she didn't do anything wrong with me. And that's a whole big story in itself. And I won't start from the beginning on it. But yeah, Space Monster has done plenty of wrong things to me. Long before I ever did or said anything about her, Space Monster did plenty of wrong. She created a whole Discord that was just dedicated to trying to make trouble for me and Amy and Robbie, or Nikki and Robbie, basically. And that's just the start of it. But anyway, that was the gist of the conversation, was her trying to find out information about Amy and her saying she never did anything wrong. And now she's telling people that I was shooting up and I was off my face and she had to go on my panel because why? Still not really sure I get it, because I had guests on my panel already. And by the time I was actually up and like I started a new live, and the crisis was already over at that point. So there was there was nothing for her. Like, she was not involved in me getting well. She didn't go on and talk to me about, trying to get into recovery or anything like that. Like, she tries to tell it as though she came in to save me or something. And I'm actually going to find the link and put it in the chat so you guys can see for yourselves if you want. Like I said, it's up to you guys if you want. It's kind of a long live, but you can watch it long enough to get an idea of what really happened and see for yourselves if you want. But she tells it like she came in like a superhero. I had to go on her panel because she was off her face. No, she didn't. She wasn't trying to help anybody but herself. And she can say whatever she wants to say and paint things however she wants to paint it. But she, for one thing, I've never, ever, ever used drugs intravenously, ever. But you know what, Mr. Jackpots? The thing about that is Space will be cordial to anybody who will join with her on the hate train. And right now, Amy has access to a channel that some people think of as well respected and But really now it's just become that person turns out is just basically a male form of Amy. But there's an audience there, and it's an established audience. And Space's channel's been taken down. So Space is using Amy for the opportunity to get that clout, because that's what Space does. Like, if I had, at the time when she came onto my panel, if I had been receptive to her, then she would have been cordial and friendly with me too. Space Monster is for sale. Anybody that she feels like can further her case in some way, shape, or form, get her a little more clout, get her a little more sympathy for how badly she's been treated, she'll be cool with them. And especially if it means teaming up with her in her hatred of Robbie, Nikki, me. She did the same thing. Like, there was a time period when Jessica, who, those who don't know, I'm not sure which old dude you mean, but yeah, I'm not going to name the person. I just don't want to, because I don't have any personal beef with that person. So I don't want to name them, but it's the channel that Space was hanging out on today, talking crap about me, and Amy and Tiff were on panel talking crap about me. So saying that I lied, although I don't know how messages that Amy sent me. I mean, I have plenty of factual proof there, plenty of proof that what I was saying was factual, I guess I should have said. But anyway, Jessica did the same thing. Like, she got mad at me because she was wanting me to drag Nikki, and when I wouldn't do it, she got mad and went running to Space Monster. And of course, she came in and started talking shit about me, and of course Space welcomed her with open arms, even though up until then she'd hated Jessica, just like she's hated Amy all this time. But people think Amy's got power and Amy's got information, and people think Amy's got clout. What Amy has is a very, very sick head. That's what Amy has. And a stalker mentality. Yes, exactly, Wyoming. If somebody's in a crisis, the least you could do is show them some grace. That's why I don't talk about people's, and it doesn't matter what that person says about me or does to me. I don't talk about people's health issues. I don't talk about their trauma. And I don't talk about their addiction and or recovery, because I believe that it is not my place to tell somebody else's story. And it's not up to me to try and make somebody tell their story. Just like the way Amy does to Nikki with, what happened to her, and trying to make her, say she's lying, or make her tell us, you don't do that. First of all, if somebody's a victim of something, you don't call them a liar. And second of all, you don't try to make somebody tell their story before they're ready to tell it. And, if that person's never ready to tell it, it's so up to them whether or not they want to share that. You don't out people. You don't exploit their trauma. I try to keep things. Oh, thank you, Wyoming. That's nice. I try to make my channel a positive place. My original intent for it was to give people a safe space to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about, and to let anybody who wanted to share their thoughts to give them a voice. And that's why I have that policy of not denying somebody the opportunity to speak on my panel. I've been thinking about maybe starting back to doing something on the regular. If we get some people coming in regularly, I might actually do that. We used to have a lot of fun. If you go back to my original channel, which there's a link to my original channel and my channel history. Oh, here's this link to the video with Space Monster. I forgot to put it up. There it is. That's the video where Space Monster came on my panel, the one where she says that she saved me. But, oh, I did put it up. Never mind. I put it up twice. Okay. I'm a moron. Anyway, I would like to maybe start doing some fun stuff again. Like one of the things we did was we did a YouTube's Got Talent. That's what I called it. And we had people showcase their artwork or their talents. And we had so much fun with that. It was one of the best times I ever had on a live stream. And what it was people sent me, they emailed me pictures of like artwork they did, or like links to videos of them playing music. I think I might have used one of Robbie's songs. I had all kinds of different forms of art, from sculptures to keychains to, painting and drawing and just everything. And I mean, we just had like the people who wanted to come up on panel and talk about their art did, and some just had me do the talking for them. And they emailed me like the pictures and the description. But oh my gosh, we had the best time. And, we had some different themes. I had one where I told about the Mothman, which is the bad guy from my hometown, the Mothman. No, I don't think Amy had a talent, Mr. Jackpot. I think you're right about that. Pretty sure she did not. Amy actually did not participate openly in my channel. She was kind of trying to manipulate things behind the scenes. Jessica was the one who wanted to participate in my channel. And she had some artwork that she claimed to have drawn herself, but I highly suspected was traced from her Precious Moments coloring book. And it was the Breakfast Club. It was based on the Breakfast Club, because back then my whole channel had the Breakfast Club theme. I had, backgrounds and stuff, and I had mods. My mods, this was so much fun. My channel used to be so much fun. I had mods that like use accounts that had names of the characters from the Breakfast Club, and they would throw out quotes from the Breakfast Club here and there. Like we had a John Bender and a Claire Standish and Allison, I forget what her last name was, but we had each one of those characters: Brian, Andy, Allison, Bender, Claire, and those were all my mods. And anyway, she gave me this, what she claimed she drew, even though it very much looked like Precious Moments. And then when I Googled it, I found, actually, I have a video for that too. It was one when Jessica tried to copyright claim the picture. I made some comparisons, some side-by-side comparisons on that. If you're interested, I'll play it for you. Once again, it's old, but it does a side-by-side comparison of the two pictures. And it's really funny because Jessica claimed that she had never heard of Precious Moments. And, oh God, it was so obviously traced. So obviously traced. But anyway, let's see, some of the other themes we did. The Mothman, we did dreams. One night we did dream interpretation, like somebody had a book, and we like had people talk about their dreams, and like we'd look up what they supposedly meant. We had some naughty ones too. Like we had one where we where it was just like looked up. I'll say marital aids, only we use the word that rhymes with Bilbo, but we looked up so-called Bilbos throughout the ages and compared them to each other. And I mean, we just used to have all kinds of fun with it. And we do a topic and I'd talk about it for like an hour or so. And then we just spend the rest of the time chatting. And then like once a week or so, I do a recovery stream. And we talk about something having to do with recovery. Um, so you'd like to see it? Are you talking about the talent one, or the okay? Let me find it here. I'll find it and play it for you. It's only a few minutes long. Um, it's real short, like the videos that I showed earlier today. So it's somewhere between 2 and 4 minutes long. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Okay. It's called Copyright Law and the Girl Who Cried Doxer. It's 2 minutes and 22 seconds long. All right. Hold on while I screen share with you. I like the way these new screen shares are. Like you can control the video without having to go to the original one. That makes it so much easier. Okay, I don't think there's any sound on this one. There it is. Now tell me that don't look traced. There's the picture. I'm pausing it. I agree with you, Wyoming. I want to do some fun stuff again. I miss it. Like we used to play games and stuff too, like if I remember correctly, I think we might have done like some kind of version of Never Have I Ever. And on my other channel, like we used to have at one point, we'd have like 6 or 7 people on my channel at a time. And like we just had the best time. So I just want to get people coming in more regularly. So, we actually have some participation, but I'd like to get it lively again. If I can get it like that again, I might start doing lives again on the regular. But anyway, look at that picture. If anybody is familiar with Precious Moments, does that or does it not look like a bad copy of a Precious Moments picture? And there were a few things that I noticed that like were signs that it had been traced. And one is that like, well, it's hard to see here, but like down here, if you can see like some of their feet appear to be floating. And that's what happens when you're trying to trace something and the paper moves. Like we got floating feet. Like there's no reason why his feet would be like down here and hers would be up here and Bender's would be up here. They're all supposed to be leaning against lockers, so their feet should be in the same place. But anyway, all right, I'll go ahead and continue it. So this is the whole story. I don't know if you were able to read that, but that was just where Jessica gave it to me and said that it was for my YouTube art. And then she struck my channel. And she struck 3 of them at once, and it's to try and get my channel taken down. And because she copy claimed those channels, it said like you put your name down and it says that your name will be displayed. And so it said that, it was taken down because of a copy claim by her, and she claimed that I doxed her because of that, which makes absolutely no sense. And I'm pretty sure she put her full name in there just because she planned on going and telling people that I doxed her. But anyway, stuff on copyright. There we go. There's the precious moment saying, now tell me, take a look at that. Now, the girl claimed that she didn't know what precious moments was. That'd be an awful big coincidence. Awful big coincidence. And there's the original again. Or not the original, but the picture that she supposedly drew freehand. Oh, did I just back it up? I don't know. Okay, that was pretty much it. Just kind of showing that was the picture that originally got my original channel, well, led to getting my original channel taken down. And I eventually got my original channel reinstated, but it took YouTube like a year to get around to researching it. And by that time I was already using this one. And so I never went back to using my original channel. Although I'm glad my content was restored, because like I said, I had a lot of fun on there, and some of those videos were cool, and I had a good time with. So yeah, I've thought about going back to using my original channel, but we'll see. I may decide to maybe make this one my drama channel and make the other one the fun channel, but we'll just see how things go. It's okay now, Wyoming. It's over with. It's been a while since all that stuff happened, but the reason that I talk about it is because Amy's still out there and still doing the kind of things that she's doing. And she leaves a trail of victims behind her everywhere she goes. And I am going to keep talking about it, not because I'm still butthurt over what she's done, but because people need to know the kind of stuff she does. And that's how she treats her so-called friends. And, Jessica's not around anymore, thank goodness. She took herself and fucked off to wherever it is she fucked off to. But Amy's still out there. And that's a scary thing. Very scary. Yeah. Yeah, having two channels, yeah, it could be a good thing. I could keep the discussions and panels like this on one channel, and the fun streams and themed streams on another one. I've thought of doing it that way. And if I do, then I'll let you all know, through this channel, that come here for, for another stream or something like that. But I'll think of something fun to do sometime soon, and we'll do it. Some of the things I remember, one was we did one where we went over movies from the 80s and how they've aged. Revenge of the Nerds, for instance. That's growing up, I remember I thought that was one of the funniest movies. It was so naughty, blah, blah, blah. And now, when I look back on it, I'm like, man, they straight up just R-worded a girl in that movie as a way of getting revenge on them for picking on the nerds. And that was supposed to be funny and cool. And, the movie Heathers, which is still one of my all-time favorite movies. But there's a scene in there where Winona Ryder's character is just sitting there watching this girl who's supposed to be like one of her best friends get R-worded, like right in front of her, and just sits there and watches, like doesn't intervene, doesn't try to do anything to help her, and acts like it's the most normal thing in the world. Like they don't even address that it's wrong. And it just blew my mind. I love older movies too. Like the 80s was such a fun era, wasn't it? Like seriously, like the hair, the makeup, the clothes, like, oh my gosh, the 80s was so much fun. But it does amaze me how they treated some things, like how they normalized things like date rape and bullying, and just they made it seem like I don't know, like it was normal and cool to treat people that way. And it's just so different from the kind of stuff, like if a movie was made today where a bunch of people got back at their bullies by R-wording their girlfriend, like there is no way that shit would be accepted today. It's just absolutely insane. But yeah, there is actually an app online, Tubi, Tubi, and they have the greatest selection of 80s movies. They change them up every now and then, but right now you can watch Can't Buy Me Love, which is, oh my God, one of my favorites. Like it's got the 80s fashion on there. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, Can't Buy Me Love. Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is another really fun 80s movie. I think The Goonies is on there right now. Oh my gosh, there's so many great movies on there. Dream a Little Dream. And I found some that I've never seen before that turned out to be a lot of fun too. Like there was a movie called Rock and Roll High School, and it's basically about this high school and they play lots of rock and roll. And the Ramones are like special guest stars. I don't know. It was just really kind of a crazy little movie, and I'd never heard of it before. And there was a Michael J. Fox movie, like pre Back to the Future. I think it was called something like High School USA or something like that. And that one was fun to watch as well. So I highly recommend checking out Tubi because it's totally like everything on there is free. And they have some great stuff on there that you're automatically going to recognize, and some stuff that you've never heard of before. And it's all just good fun. 16 Candles was a good one too. Yeah. What's happening, hot stuff? I love John Hughes movies. I can't help it. I'm such a nerd. Oh, love my John Hughes movies. Pretty in Pink is another one I love. I can't help myself. I just love my John Hughes movies. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, yes. And I read that when I was young, and I think Cameron Crowe wrote it, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure that he actually went to high school like undercover somewhat, and wrote that book based on his experience, like on like real things that were happening in that school at the time. I'm pretty sure that is like at least somewhat based on true stories. You're a nerd too. Me too, girl. I was a nerd growing up, like all through school. I was a gifted kid. I was in the GAT program, gifted and talented, and oh my gosh, I always had my nose stuck in a book. I was a big nerd. But anyway, the 80s was fun, and everybody was so daring with their fashion and hairstyles and makeup and all that. Like it was all neon and crazy colors and big hair, and oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, I had the biggest hair too. Oh wow. That was another thing we did too. That would be fun to do now. Like if anybody wants to participate in this, like we'll think about it, and maybe the next live I have will get people to send in some pictures of themselves in high school, and people who want to claim it can, and people who don't, you don't have to, but stuff that really shows like what fashion was like and stuff back then. I've got one, and my hair is so big. Oh my gosh, it's so big. It practically has its own zip code. Um, yes, the clothes. Gosh, Punky Brewster is what I always think of. Like all those crazy clothes, and even the slutty clothes were fun and crazy looking and stuff. But that's one of the reasons why I love Can't Buy Me Love, because the clothes and the hair and stuff were so on point. Like it's a great illustration of like super fashion in the 80s, like high fashion. Because like most schools, like they'd have a few girls who were super fashionable, and everybody else was like kind of trying to get there and not quite making it. But and Can't Buy Me Love, I mean, all the characters in it were like very, very on point for the 80s. It was great. I will always love that movie because of that. Yes. Oh gosh, Madonna. All them rubber bracelets. Madonna started the whole jelly bracelet trend and lace bows. And I remember I had one of those lace bows. Well, it was really a headband, but it had a giant bow on the top of it. And I had a pair. They were basically pants. I mean, they were leggings, but they were like made out of lace, and you had to wear a really long shirt with them because otherwise they would have been see-through. But it was basically a dress because the shirt would come like down to my knees. But yeah, I miss that. I miss that. Like, oh my gosh, I miss the kind of fun. Like, I don't think life will ever have that fun and carefree feeling to it like we had in the 80s. Like anybody who didn't get to experience that really missed out, because it really was like, even though, I mean, there was shit going on, but for the most part, life just seemed like it had a fun kind of carefree flavor to it that you don't see anymore. And that's sad. You had neon ski clothes. Yeah, ski jackets were a thing. Like you didn't have to be out on the slopes to wear a ski jacket. I had neon. Oh gosh, I had neon. I had a neon dress. It was like styled like a big long shirt. It was neon blue, and it had neon pink lapels, and it had a little pocket square. Well, it looked like a pocket square that was neon green, and it had a red belt that came with it that went around my waist, like looped around it twice. And I had these little booty things that I wore with it, these little lace-up boots. It was such a cute outfit. I always called it my Punky Brewster outfit because it had all these clashing neon colors. But yeah, I think it's the only outfit I ever had that had that many colors in it. It's like lime green and neon blue and neon pink and red, and it sounds disgusting when you think about it, but it was a really cute little outfit. Anyway, I guess it's probably about time to call it a night. I know Nikki was live tonight, so I didn't get too many people here, but hopefully people will come back and watch it later and learn a little bit about Rhabdo and the dangers of it and what to look for. And maybe y'all think of some ideas for streams. Maybe we'll have a brainstorming session and people can give me ideas. I haven't checked the email for my channel for a while, but I'll start using it again. It's a Breakfast Club themed one. It's Answer the Question Claire at hotmail.com, I think. Let's see if I still have it saved up here. As sad, I can't even remember offhand what it's called. Yeah, Answer the Question Claire at hotmail.com. There it is. So if y'all have any good ideas for a stream, send it to me. And before I go live next, I'll check, and I'll try to do a premiere just so everybody gets a notification before I schedule a live like I did this time. Maybe I'll try to go earlier so I don't coincide with Nikki's streams anymore. But I appreciate y'all coming, and I appreciate you listening to me. And until next time, just remember that we are each of us a princess, an athlete, a brain, a criminal, and a basket case. Until next time, sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. It is my favorite movie of all time, Wyoming, but I'll bet you guessed that already. All right, night.